Nightmares.
So nobody took me up on, remember for that one unit where I said, kids, if you fill out this unit companion, turn it in to me, I'll remove the test for you. I think it was either Europe or Americas. Um, Nobody took me up on that. Maybe it was more work than I realized for kids. So everybody's
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, it
okay.
was kind of a lot of work. I mean, it would have taken off the unit test, which I think a lot of kids would gladly do, but there's not many kids in this class, so
That's true. Both of
yeah.
these are very small enrollment. Um, but I love world history. Absolutely love it. So Caleb, do you want to read a couple of screens for me?
Yay.
Slides? You don't have to.
Why not?
Okay.
That's mostly what the whole reason I'm here. So,
No, I go ahead.
the interwars, 1919 to 1939. I thought it was 1945, but okay.
Well,
Rise of
uh
what even is that?
I know, there's 7 syllables, 8 if you consider ism as 2 syllables. Okay, it's a
Totalitarianism.
mouthful. Totalitarianism, and it's very similar to
Why?
authority is,
Why? Why?
I didn't mean to do that to you. Okay, but it is, it's
This
like
makes
7
no
syllables.
sense.
Totalitarian is oh, ism. So ism technically isn't 2 syllables because there's no vowel there, but it sure sounds like it
Then
when you say
again,
ism.
never. Then again, you never
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Bruh.
So interwar years. Now, we wouldn't say to 1945 because, uh, at least in Europe, World War II started in 1939. So, well, let's keep going. So, oh, do you also want to see, um, communism here, of course, Japan, a Great Depression impacted those years between 1919 and 1939, between the two world wars.
Yeah, the Great
And
Depression was a nightmare.
yes,
Oh
yes,
my
and it was
knee.
really hard on Germany. Not that they have no excuse for what some of the political leaders did, but okay. Will you read this too, Caleb?
Students will identify the rise of what the heck? I'm not saying
To-
that between 1919 and
Totalitarian.
1939.
Okay, and it is very, like I said, very similar to authoritarianism. I'm not
I
even
think we
saying
get
that.
the point. I
Okay,
think we get the point.
and that's a new term too that just people used. It came into use in the interwar years. Um, okay, I guess you don't have to read this. You kids know the drill on that. I do want us to take a look at this. Do you want to read this too, Caleb, or do you want me to?
In early 1918, U.S. President Wilson proposed the League of Nations. He won a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts. Bro, I think the no League of Nations is gonna undo itself. Just just
It failed,
dang.
obviously. If the point
It's
was to avoid future wars, then
nah.
World War II happened.
U.S.
Yeah.
Senate rejected the League of Nations as they should, because they know it's gonna be their downfall.
Mm.
Led by Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, he believed that it lacked the U.S. interests.
Which is, it's fine to love our nation. It's fine to want the best for our country, but if you only care about your own nation, you're getting into fascism. So, I want to point out here. I know you said that you thought it was a pointless, Caleb,
Yeah, I
and
didn't say it was pointless.
oh,
It
okay.
does have
What?
a few good things, but it's gonna undo itself. I have a
So,
feeling I know how, but I'm not gonna say it because you never
so
know.
the with a glaring. Do you see here? Well, I'll erase it, but the glaring the nation that developed it,
Bro,
created
this the
it,
word is so small I
proposed
can't
it
tell what's the highlighted.
was the United States. And I, for one, think it was a big mistake for our senators to reject the League of Nations. So, do you see our great nation right there? Even back then, we were very powerful, very important. Um, and I think it might have made a difference. A lot of and other historians think that too. That if the United States had embraced the League of Nations, and with our diplomacy skills and economic skills and stuff that maybe, just maybe, World War II could have been avoided. Um, so, Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, he died before World War II started, and so did President Roosevelt. I mean, Wilson. So they didn't get to see, the disaster that the Treaty of Versailles brought to the world. Uh, okay, and this is kind of what we just talked about. Um, the U.S. Senate rejected a peace treaty, and lo and behold, in one generation, just 20 years later, another world war breaks out. Um,
I have a
oh,
feeling we're on the verge of World War III, but then
oh, I
again, what
hope
do I
not.
know?
I hope not.
Because
I
then
hope,
it's just gonna be a stupid nightmare all over again.
you know,
Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat
oh,
it.
yeah, good point. Oh, I was a little girl through the Cold War. We'll study the Cold War in a couple of weeks. Well, at least for part of the Cold War. The Cold War lasted 45 years or so. But we thought that a lot too when I was your age. We used to think, oh gosh, anytime now, Soviet Union's going to bomb us, or we're going to bomb them, or whatever. But you never know. You might be right, Caleb.
Sticks and
So,
stones, let's get it. Yeah.
militarism, I wanted you kids to know these definitions. That's kind of obvious. It's, a lot of taxpayer money goes into financing lots of military equipment and personnel and ammunitions, the whole nine yards. Communism. Okay. Obviously, we know, I think we talked about this before. Was it US history or you guys that we
2
talked
weeks
about?
ago.
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, it
There's
was.
no
Okay.
they've only gone to socialism, but there's no true communist country,
That's
which
right.
I
Yeah, the
sort of
industrial.
believe. I
Yeah.
actually sort of believe that, cause no one can really the government can't really be stable when they reach communism, cause as soon as they get to almost that point, they're kinda cooked. Like, things
Yeah.
just happen
Yes.
and just
Yeah, it's one of
opposite.
those things that looks good on paper, but is not good in practice. I agree. They just, yeah,
Exactly.
and then, okay, and fascism is on the other side of the political spectrum, completely opposites. In fact, they typically hate each other. And so a lot of people think that Stalin was really duped when
Um,
Germany attacked the Soviet Union in 1941.
how about I'm gonna give you a fun fact.
Okay.
Hitler did not trust Stalin, and also Hitler was super against communism.
He hated it. That's what,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He that he absolutely, you're right. He even wrote it in Mein Kampf, which is
Oh,
German
actually,
for
we used to have that.
my
We actually had his
agony.
original book.
Yeah, he absolutely hated communism. So when he came to
Yeah.
power, a lot of people suspected, even though they signed that Munich, no, not the Munich Pact, Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. Uh,
Molotov?
yeah, oh, you know what Molotovs are?
No, I know a Molotov cocktail.
It's named after him. Uh, Molotov was a Russian or Soviet uh, um, diplomat, and he and Ribbentrop, who was the German uh, uh, Secretary of State or whatever they call it in Germany, they got together and they signed a non-aggression pact. You know what? Maybe I should have put that in here, but we'll talk about it maybe next week because there's so much to uh, just so much to unpack. That was crazy because just 2 years later, Germany attacked the Soviet Union. It was a terrible disaster at first. Okay, I guess let's keep going. The main thing I wanted you kids to know that even though they politically and the ideologies are completely opposite of each other, on the left side we have communism, on the right side we have fascism. They still tend to produce totalitarianism. They produce, leaders that everything, they have complete authority. So I think the only example today in this world would be North Korea, Kim Jong Un. He is that is total It's a communist country or a socialist country, whatever. He's an example. But this are the circumstances during between 1919 and 1929 gave rise to those um, extreme political powers. And so I advise students, you all will someday have your own, or maybe already have your own ideas about politics and what side you're on, or maybe you're in the center, whatever. Please, please, though, stay away from extreme politics. Extreme left or extreme right, I think, is not good. That's my opinion. Okay, so we're going to, I think you kids already know Germany was really impacted terribly by the Treaty of Versailles. Um, it would just put too many penalties on them. It was humiliating to them. Not that that gives them the right to do what they did. I don't think I might not make you kids write an answer to this, but I did want to show, you know, primary document here on the left, and then uh, so France, Great Britain, they were really mad at Germany. They had a lot of direct loss of life. Um, uh, Still, we sent our troops and stuff too, but over here, and then here's the more clearly written. And Germany kind of had no choice but to sign it, I guess, or that's how they felt. So here too, if you look at um, Armed Forces of Germany, must not include any. I can't see this thing doesn't. Oh, it does move. Okay, they could not have any. They couldn't build militarism. Of course, after World War II, they had that too. Even the police officers couldn't have weapons in post World War II, but that happened too after. Um, anyway, the point is, if you see it in writing, it's probably too harsh on Germany, and they actually didn't start the war. Austria and um, Austria did, even though they were in cahoots with, they're aligned with Germany. And also the Kaiser. The Kaiser and his advisors were, I think they were
Huh?
warmongers. Is that Kalen?
No, that's my brother Micah. Bro, I'm in
Okay.
a live lesson. I told you I was in a live lesson.
Okay. And then here we talk about, it was just so bleak during the 1920s for the German people. And again, when we talk about Germans did this and that, really it's the government that's doing this and that, the bad things. It's not the people themselves. Although, yeah, and the same thing could happen to us if our government conducted bad events. It's not our fault. We didn't. It's our fault to the extent that we elect our leaders. But anyway, so the Great Depression, of course, happened in the United States, but our nation is so big and so powerful and so economically uh, um, fruitful that when we experienced the Great Depression, many other countries did too. Um, and it kind of, and that is part of what led to extreme politics, people, you know, um, mass unemployment, uh, just a lot of hardship, and people look to something else for hope. Sometimes they look at the wrong places. Okay, we're going to watch a video. I put one of these too on your kids' intro pages about the rise of Hitler, but let's watch this one too.
I'm gonna mute up for a little bit just in case bro comes back.
Wait, say it again, Caleb.
I'm a mute up just in case my little bro comes back. So if I don't
Okay.
respond immediately, just go ahead, read the
Oh,
slides.
gotcha. Okay.
So just
Okay.
gonna make sure he doesn't barge
Okay.
in.
And we do have a few other videos, but all of them are pretty short, okay? Oh, whoops.
Was soon struck by a series of hammer blows. Street battles erupted between extreme right-wing nationalists and
Yes,
communists trying to start a revolution.
they hated each other.
Then, in 1923, the country was devastated by hyperinflation, which reached hundreds of percent a month.
Oh.
Ordinary people's savings were wiped out. This was fertile ground for a new breed of rabble-rousing right-wing politicians. Among them, Adolf Hitler. Hitler had been born in Austria. He had fought bravely as a soldier in World War I and been awarded the Iron Cross. On returning to Germany, he settled in Munich, and his fiery oratory soon enabled him to seize control of the small National Socialist or Nazi Party.
Some of the names are confusing. Nationalist, socialist.
In October 1923, Hitler and his henchmen attempted an armed coup against the Weimar government. It failed, and he was sentenced to 9 months. In prison, he wrote a book, Mein Kampf, My Struggle, in which he blamed Germany's ills on the Jews and demanded that it rebuild its strength and seek new territories in the East.
Remember, he still wasn't that well known, though.
On his release, he set about building the Nazis
Or
into a
he didn't
proper,
have that big of a
disciplined
following yet.
political party. From now on, he would use the democratic system to achieve power. But for the next 5 years, Weimar Germany prospered. Support for extremist parties, left and right, dwindled. Then suddenly, Hitler's opportunity arrived. In October 1929, the US stock market crashed. Billions of dollars were lost, and an economic depression swept across the world. Unemployment in Germany soared to over 6 million. Only extremist politicians seemed to offer a solution.
Wir haben ein Ziel uns gewählt und verfechten es fanatisch rücksichtslos.
Politicians like Hitler. By 1931, his Nazis were a true mass movement. And they had their own brown-shirted thugs, the SA stormtroops, who numbered almost 3 million. In the 1932 elections, the Nazis became the largest party in Germany's parliament, the Reichstag. But Hitler refused to join a coalition, leaving parliament paralyzed. To break the impasse, President Hindenburg made him chancellor in January 1933.
So he was appointed.
Head of the
He
government.
wasn't elected. They thought they would put him there to keep
Within a
him
month,
quiet, but it didn't
the
work out.
Reichstag burned down. Hitler accused the communists and demanded emergency powers. He then used them to ban all other political parties.
And just so you know,
In
it was
August
probably
1930,
the Nazis themselves that burned. I don't know if we know for sure, but that was just a useful event for him to gain more power. Okay. Wait, where's the how do I keep going? Where's the little thing at the bottom? There.
President Hindenburg died. Hitler declared himself president. He was now absolute leader, the Führer of Germany.
I was there. I was in Nuremberg. Okay. Obviously, that is part of his rise to power. And let's see, this one is okay. Uh, propaganda, which our nation has used it too, but not to the extreme ways that the Nazis did. So this is kind of showing how people
Hi, I'm Michael Moynihan for Reason TV, and today we are at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum with Steve Luckert, the curator of State of Deception, the Power of Nazi Propaganda.
We wanted to examine the role of Nazi propaganda, how they used it to facilitate persecution, mass murder, and war. When you think about how quick that Nazi rise to power was, that for most of the period of the Weimar Republic, the Nazi Party was largely a joke.
Ich habe mir ein Ziel gestellt, nämlich die 30 Parteien aus Deutschland hinauszufegen.
1928, the Nazi Party only had 12 seats in the German parliament out of almost 600. But 1930 gets 107 seats. Then 1932, it more than doubles that. They learned how to simplify a message, how to play upon voters' emotions, how to reduce very complicated issues to slogans. This is a Braille copy of Mein Kampf.
A Braille copy
Braille.
of Mein Kampf, contemporaneously. Were people reading this?
Yeah, particularly those that were the propagandists. This was kind of the Bible for them, that they would draw on what was said in there. And of course, excerpts from Mein Kampf were used everywhere to justify various policies. But this became a bestseller, and Hitler made a fortune off the royalties from this. And it was published in, I think, 16, 17 different languages. These posters inform us a great deal about Nazi thinking and the ways in which they presented images to the public, whether it's of this kind of strong, heroic figure breaking the chains of slavery, this playing upon dissatisfaction with the status quo, the ways in which they engaged in what today we would call niche marketing. So it's women who work in the home, farmers, workers. You don't tend to associate the Nazis with the word freedom, but they used it endlessly.
What was the sort of methodology behind choosing these bright red colors?
Hitler talked about how in the early 20s he would create posters for his meetings in red because he understood the way it could provoke people, that it was a way to engage an audience, to get them into those beer halls.
So are they consciously drawing from the Bolshevik example?
I mean, when Goebbels talked about the power of film, one of the films that he always cited was Battleship Potemkin.
What's happening now after 1933, 1934?
The Nazis saw the importance of controlling the media, this Ministry of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. It was created as a cabinet-level post for Joseph Goebbels, who also was in charge of the Nazi Party's propaganda apparatus.
So in the state, this means newsreels, films,
He was really
books,
smart, but evil.
Radio,
Libraries.
libraries.
Just
Here we
Goebbels.
have the big political show of National Socialists. The two attacks on Jews as both being capitalists and communists and Bolsheviks. Confused and silly, but apparently effective. So how does one prepare the population for this kind of machinery of destruction?
There is an effort made to both present the Jews as a real physical threat to Germany, and also to identify Jews as being the powers behind the enemy. They would show these Soviet atrocities against the local population, and then identify the Jews as the perpetrators of that. In this particular poster, dealing with the discovery of a Soviet crime in Vinica, to identify the Jewish Bolshevik as the perpetrator of that crime.
Is this the original painting?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. Now, the title comes from the New Testament book of John, but instead of having Jesus as a messianic figure, we have Adolf Hitler. And you can see in the painting the way the light emanates off Adolf Hitler's face over the audience. The audience is portrayed as a kind of a microcosm of German society, but it also emphasizes the importance that Hitler and the Nazis placed on the spoken word. That Adolf Hitler believed that the spoken word, far more than the written word, was responsible for all the great events in history. It allowed you direct contact with your audience. That is, you could play upon their hopes, fears, and frustrations. You could get immediate feedback about what worked and what didn't work. And all that became important as you tailored your message.
How do you see this as relevant to today? I mean, what does this tell us about today's political propaganda, if anything?
An exhibition like this raises questions about how we address propaganda. Is it through restricting speech, or is it more of the American marketplace of ideas that is the best way to address what one might consider offensive speech? And also, how to evaluate all the information that we're bombarded with today, and how to make educated, informed decisions.
All right. So I agree too that there might be a part of this. I get uncomfortable when people use free speech to say hateful, terrible things about other people. But as long as they are not inciting violence and stuff, they are allowed to say it. Um, and so nobody should be the ultimate judge of what's free speech is. Now, free press too is very important. So we might have you kids probably know we have a lot of press um, uh, that is very lopsided politically. Both sides do it. Uh, but it's still very important to have freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to assembly. Okay, let's see. Where is the? We're gonna look at. I thought there was something on here. Oh, yes, there is. Okay, the links are right there. If you already know the answers, go ahead and just drag and drop where you think these go, or go ahead and click on the links. What are, uh, oh, okay. I am not sure if I know where two of these go. Uh, I am going to look on platform. Nuremberg laws, and that's later where the trials were held. Hmm. Okay. Let me see what you kids did. Because there's two of them that I'm not totally sure. Oh, one of you submitted. Okay, let's see. Um, okay. Nice work, whoever submitted that. And let me see the other. Yeah, the final solution are the three extreme ones, and this student got these. And it was the end of the war, kind of, when a lot of the final solution was being carried out, and Germany was losing the war. They needed trains and troops and um, ammunition, gasoline, and all that stuff for the war. But they were so dedicated to the horrible final solution that they still continued it, and even directed resources that they needed for the war effort into the final solution. Okay, let's see. Okay. Set up a plan. Yeah, definitely. I think all of us uh, got the final row correct, because those were the three extreme things for the final solution. And then the Nuremberg laws. Let's see. Yeah, good job, kids. All right. Let's go on. It was just like uh, I met a woman who was raised in Holland near where Anne Frank lived. And she was the same age as Anne Frank, but she did not know Anne Frank. Anyway, she said it was just a step by step by step. First they took away her bicycle, then they took away this and that. And then it just kept getting worse. And I don't know, maybe the other people kind of got used to it. Yeah, I don't know. How could anybody get used to seeing that kind of uh, legal behavior? Okay, the power of propaganda. Um, so even art, and there was a publisher of a magazine. He actually was hanged in Nuremberg too later after the war. He, I don't think he ever truly committed violent acts himself, but he was such a part of the propaganda that made Jewish people and Gypsy people and uh, communists and homosexuals and um, anybody that was not their ideal um, perfect white person. Okay, we're gonna watch a video. Share this tab instead. Crystal Knot. Remember, the Nazis aren't in complete power quite. No, I take that back. This is 1938, and actually they are.
Oh, they're getting there.
Yeah.
80 years ago, during the night of November 9th and 10th, 1938, coordinated attacks against Jews occurred throughout Nazi Germany and its annexed territories. Thousands were arrested, Jewish homes and shops were destroyed, and synagogues were burned down. The violence came to be known as Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, due to the shards of glass that covered the streets from broken shop windows. When Chancellor Adolf Hitler started employing extreme anti-Semitic rhetoric in Germany in the 1930s, he was building upon centuries of anti-Jewish sentiment. The first forms of such prejudice date back to ancient times and have been present in many countries since then. After Hitler blamed Jews for the economic and social damage incurred during World War I, Germany adopted anti-Jewish legislation and started viewing Jews as a group that could not assimilate into European society. Jews were gradually segregated from the rest of the population, and their businesses were boycotted. On November 7th, 1938, a young Polish Jew named Herschel Grinspan walked into the German embassy in Paris. In revenge for his family and the thousands of other Jews who had been expelled from Germany, he shot a Nazi diplomatic officer, Ernst von Rath.
And they made a really big deal out of that.
2 days later, after von Rath died of his wounds, Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels delivered a fiery speech, using the killing as pretext for retaliation. On November 9th, 1938, Nazi paramilitary forces and civilians began demolishing Jewish homes and other buildings throughout Germany and the annexed parts of Austria and Czechoslovakia. Over the course of 48 hours, 267 synagogues were destroyed and more than 7,000 shops were damaged. The German authorities looked on without intervening. More than 90 Jews were killed in the rampage, and 30,000 Jewish males were detained, per instructions to arrest as many young and healthy men as local prisons could hold. They were later deported to concentration camps. Immediately after Kristallnacht, Jews were blamed for the riots, and were fined 1 billion Reichsmark, or about $400 million. The government also confiscated all insurance payouts for properties damaged during the violence. Today, Kristallnacht is considered to mark the beginning of the Holocaust, in which Nazi Germany and its collaborators murdered some 6 million Jews.
And a lot of Jewish people understood that things were getting very, very serious at that point. And, they had already had a lot of laws against them implemented. But now this violence woke up. Many Jewish people tried to leave Germany and Austria and Czechoslovakia. Some nations did take them. Some of the people escaping did make it to France and Great Britain, UK. Our nation, sadly, rejected most of them. There was a whole ship of escaping Jews they were like in Cuba. This is before Cuba was communist, and then they tried to enter United States, and the U.S. rejected them. So I think that's one of the reasons is our policy was really, really sad. It was not a good. I think that's why we have promoted, financed Israel so much. Anyway, I guess if you kids want to answer, I don't know. It's kind of obvious here. If you kids already answered, no, let's just keep going. Or just tell me your thoughts, verbally or in writing, what you think about Kristallnacht. How did the Nazi Party use it to advance its objectives?
I mean, it made the Jews look pretty bad,
Yep.
and it just simply said that they needed to retaliate because the Jews were killing them, and the civilians went ballistic, and the government used
Yep.
this to advantage to slowly but surely arrest the Jews and take them out of the country and put
Yes.
them in concentration camps.
Yes. Especially young, healthy men who could protect their families. They were being sent away at this point. And remember, and the Nazis, since there wasn't freedom of the press, the Nazis pretty much controlled the press. So they were saying it was the Jews' fault, and the Jews would have to pay the German government and stuff. They completely switched things around. Andrew, did you have any thoughts? Did you want to write anything quickly about your thoughts of Kristallnacht? What was that, 1930? Yeah, it was the end of 38. And so less than a year later, okay. Started by the Nazi Party, but yes, Nazi Party used the riots as prep. Yes, good. Excellent. All right, let's keep rolling, kids. This one is on. I had to put Germany in here, or Japan. Still not Japan, though. Oh, this is almost. Well, I guess we can. We already kind of watched a video on propaganda, but this is shorter. Propaganda. Yep.
Did y'all freeze?
Wait, say it again.
Oh, okay, you're not frozen.
Oh, wait. Oh, did I? Shoot, I'm sharing the wrong tab, aren't I? Here. Were you kids watching it at the same time I was? Darn it,
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
For
think
radio,
we
film,
were.
newsreels,
Oh.
theater, and music productions. Soon, the Nazis controlled almost all media accessible to the German population and used this power to spread propaganda in different ways. They utilized symbols, like the swastika, to promote political allegiance, nationalism, and Nazi ideology. Hitler designed the Nazi flag in 1920 and transformed it into the trademark of the Nazi Party. It became a part of everyday life and
Now
a
it's
potent
ugly, ugly,
political
ugly.
tool.
Hopefully always
They
will
used
be.
slogans that simplified their messages to just a few memorable words or phrases, like calling Jews the scourge of humanity, or recruiting children to join the Hitler Youth.
They're
The
into
Nazis
sports and
updated their
physical fit.
propaganda strategies to improve effectiveness and appeal to a wider range of people. Beginning in the 1920s, radio emerged as a worldwide sensation. For the first time, people could listen to news and entertainment in their homes. The Nazis quickly recognized the power of this new medium. They commissioned a low-cost radio called the People's Receiver, allowing millions more Germans to buy radios and listen from their own homes. Under Nazi rule, all German films would become subject to censorship and control.
So glad we have freedom
They
of the
produced
press.
films to demonize Jews
Even though I
by
don't like
comparing them to
everything
rats
that's said.
and drawing on other negative stereotypes, while also portraying the supposedly ideal pure German. The Nazis used all of these propaganda techniques to exclude, demonize, and isolate Jewish people. They showed the world how dangerous propaganda could be in the hands of experts.
And Joseph Goebbels was, he was an expert. He was brilliant. That short, dark-haired guy. Okay. I think this is the one about Japan. I'd throw this in too because of, they obviously rose Italy, Germany, and Japan.
The Tripartite Pact
Whoa!
signed by Italy, Germany and Japan was a defensive alliance which became the backbone of the Axis powers in World War II. It placed Japan firmly on one side of a great global conflict that would soon involve the USSR and the USA and ultimately lead to Japan's defeat. But why did Japan join the Axis in the first place, and what was it hoping to achieve? To begin, it's important to contextualize what Japan was doing at this point and
Very
what it
into
wanted.
expansionism.
So Japan had been fighting a war against China since 1937 in order to expand its own empire and have access to China's resources. This war with China was roundly condemned by France, Britain and especially the United States, with whom Japan's relationship with had been deteriorating. Japan saw these diplomatic disagreements as a threat to its own independence and as more evidence that it wasn't going to be treated as an equal by the Western powers. As such, it sought new allies, and the only two nations that fit the bill were Italy and Germany. Japan had already joined the Anti-Comintern Pact in 1936 in an effort to hem in the USSR, but this wasn't any sort of formal alliance. The issue that Japanese leaders had was that they didn't want to immediately antagonize the Western democracies, and so it dallied in making any formal commitments. In fact, Japan was so cautious during negotiations that Germany and Italy formed their own pact in 1939 because they didn't want to wait any longer. So Japan's reasons for joining the Axis after all that delay are somewhat complicated. There was a strong belief in Japan that Britain and America were trying to build an Anglo-American cultural and economic hegemony across the world, and thus in Japan's eyes it had to fight this lest it become nothing more than a mere puppet. Many in Japan saw a war as inevitable and so sought to join a defensive pact with Germany and Italy in order to deter and thus delay the United States from coming to China's aid. However, the consequences of joining an anti-America defensive pact was that it confirmed to American leadership that Japan was now an openly hostile nation. So what about the USSR? Well, Japan wasn't exactly keen on communism, but its disdain was more about geopolitical strategy than ideology. For Japanese leaders, the Soviet Union was a potential rival for influence in China, which wasn't something they could tolerate. In fact, after Japan joined the Axis powers, it pushed for the USSR to be formally invited to help resist Anglo-American hegemony. Shockingly, though, Germany said no, and so the next year, Japan and the USSR signed a non-aggression pact. So that all seems pretty simple, right? Well, no. There is another reason why Japan joined the Axis that many people don't think about, and that's that Japan was deeply concerned with Germany and its rising power. When Japan was negotiating the Tripartite Pact, the Netherlands and France fell to Germany. Thus, Japanese leaders were concerned that this would mean that Germany would soon be in control of both French Indochina and the Dutch East Indies, whose resources Japan deeply coveted. As all these negotiations were going on, Europe looked like this, and so Japanese leaders were confident that Germany was going to win. As such, if it wanted to pry colonies away from Europeans, it felt that it needed German backing. And to force Germany's hand, it declared the creation of the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere, or the GIACPS for short. This was to be Japan's rightful sphere of influence in East Asia, in which they would tolerate no other great powers. All of this said, not everybody was keen on the signing of the pact, and especially naval officers were concerned that it was Germany simply outsourcing a naval war to Japan. And with that, Japan joined the Axis powers. To summarise, Japan joined the Axis for several reasons. To protect itself against foreign intervention in its war against China, to create a coalition opposed to any Anglo-American hegemony, and to secure its acquisition of resources and territories in Southeast Asia, which was actually concerned Germany was the biggest threat to. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching, with a special thanks to my Patreon supporters.
So that, oh, wait, this slide, all devices. Wait, did I go to the right one? I don't think I did. Hang on. Is this the same one? It is. Okay, no, I want to go next. Okay. Share tab. Okay. So I put this in because I wanted to give them their speaking voice too. But this is mostly about what happened between the interwar years, which is 1929 to 1939. But I thought I almost feel like I should have put this in for next week's. How long is this? I cannot see. How much time do we have? We're getting low on time. I might take this out, kids. It's super important, but I think maybe it should be for the end of World War II that I play it. Okay. This is one more. I know we've kind of covered a lot of this ground already. Oh, I do something I want to point out too, kids, is why be so mean and against Jewish people? And do you kids know some of the reasons? Here, I'm gonna put in here: religion, ethnicity.
What? I kind of zoned out like
Oh,
3
okay.
minutes ago.
Why did Germans and others strongly dislike Jewish people?
Well, first off, they kind of blamed them for the war, even though they didn't have to do
Yes.
squat with it. But also, I think it's because the Jewish populations was kind of bigger than the actual German populations, so they were kind of afraid and decided to use that fearness, turn into hate, and try to get some control. But other than
They
that,
did have a very big population. You are correct
yeah,
about that.
which kind
Yes,
of
good.
scared the
Yeah.
Germans.
I
So
don't know if they were that high, but yeah. So I religion in a way that was kind of a smaller reason though for the Nazis. The Nazis weren't into religion very much, but they were into ethnicity. Yeah, and that okay, yeah, yeah. They even measured people's faces and stuff. Slavic people, they didn't like them either, and most Russians and Polish and Ukrainians are Slavic descendants. Um, and so it was ethnicity too, and a lot, not all, but a fair amount of Jewish people were successful. They're successful here in the United States. A lot of times they tend to have they're just very good business minded. Um, and then also some people neglect uh, to mention the postmodern thinkers. So a lot of the new um, let's see, Freud, um, Einstein, uh, and more. They were, they were of course Jewish. Freud was Austrian Jew. Einstein was German Jew. The Nazis hated the progressive thinking and the um, uh, and those guys represented. Freud did, by the way, leave um, Austria in time to be saved, although he died of mouth cancer in Great Britain in 1939. However, Freud's sisters, he had like 4 or 5 sisters. I think all of them but one were murdered in concentration camps. Um, Also, well, the point back though is that a lot of these new thinkers of the modern era were often Jews. There's more examples. Um, do you kids know what the term eugenics means?
not really, no.
Do you know? Oh, Andrew, do you type in there what you think it means? kind of wish I'd put yes, yes. So, and eugenics started in the United States. Um, uh, and and some scientists and politicians and sociologists and stuff embraced it for a while. Um, in fact, maybe you've already heard. Yeah, instead of this video, I should have put that in. Did you know that for a while our nation legally sterilized people who they thought were slow? Um, uh, use theory that genetics. Um, oh, I don't know how to put the rest. I want to say the right things. Well, like I said, it was our nation, and it was kind of embraced in the 1920s for a while, and then, and the Nazis embraced it big time too. Hitler, Goebbels, Himmler, Goebbels. Okay, I'm not. Maybe it's two B's. Himmler. They all embraced it. They believed and superior genetics, superior race. So, not only did they kill a lot of Jewish people and Gypsy people, but also people with disabilities, people with, and a lot of Germans didn't even know about it. They would take a group of people who were institutionalized, who had intellectual disabilities, and um, they would take him out into the country and or not sterilize him. That was earlier. That
Shoot them.
yeah, or they would. That's when they started the Zyklon B gas. Um, okay, and this I didn't finish writing this, so I am going to just stop sharing. Um, so anyway, I think most scientists in the United States now reject eugenics because it's not. I don't know. It's not right for one person to say this group of people should be eliminated and shouldn't be able to reproduce because they're not smart or they're genetically inferior. That's just not the right thing to do. So yeah, I really wish I'd put that in as um, uh, one of my videos instead of another one about propaganda. Anyway, so it's sad that our scientists in the United States embrace this, and they did actually for a while, and then but the Nazis took it even to a higher level, obviously by eliminating millions of people, and they actually even measured um, if somebody they wouldn't necessarily kill them if their facial measurements. Here, let me see if I can find one. Um, on faces. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's called an anthropometer used to measure length of body parts and measuring heads in Germany. The science, if you had here, I'll share my screen. If someone had too many centimeters between their nose and their cheekbones, or just some ridiculous things like that, here is a photo. So like I said, they didn't necessarily kill those people, but they were considered um, uh, inferior. Uh, so so Slavic people, Jewish people, they do kind of have different facial structure, and that's okay. I'd hate for everybody in the world to have the same European facial structure, but this they did. They actually got out these tools and measured um, people's faces, measuring heads. See Latin action. Oh, and also, yeah, I wish I had brought about that too, kids, about the eugenics in United States. One of my friends in grad school wrote her thesis paper on it. It was very interesting. Uh, how, like I said, we don't do it anymore. But now I wish I. Hey, do you read your webmails I send? Um,
Yeah.
Maybe I'll embed a little YouTube video. It'll be short. It won't be long or anything about the transformation of YouTube, of eugenics from United States scientists to not German scientists who really, really embraced it and took it to a level that was way, way out of line, obviously. And yeah, and so yeah, there were several reasons, and this wasn't the only time the Jewish people had been persecuted. It even started back in the Bible, in the Book of Esther, before Christianity existed. But that's a big. It later became a big um, um, topic used against Jewish people was their religion rejected Jesus. Anyway, I want you kids. So, like I was telling Caleb before you logged in, Andrew, I we were studying the civil rights movement in U.S. history this morning, and I want you kids to really think about being on the right side of history. If you take on any causes later, uh, now or later as young adults or middle-aged adults or older adults, please, 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 whatever you turn to for the right morals, the right, some people's the Holy Bible, some people's the U.S. Constitution, um, so on and so forth. Be on the right side of history. And the right side of history are the people who avoid violence, who help the underdogs. Um, we don't have any high schools and major avenues and cities named after those racist politicians from earlier in our history. There we have them though named after Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln and people who did the right thing in history. So I want you kids to think about that when you are not sure if this path is correct or this path is correct. Maybe your own conscience too, or just Caleb, you said it earlier. Those who
Don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
there you go. Or yeah, even think of the things in the past um, that okay, and help the underdogs too, because some of the people who were involved in the civil rights movement, there was a fair amount of white people, especially younger people, but they sat on the sit-ins and went on the Freedom Riders and everything because um, they knew it was wrong. They knew that racism was wrong. They knew in their hearts and in their Bibles and in the Constitution or whatever, they understood, and they are on the right side of history at this, and they will be for centuries to come. So that's the moral of my story. I wanted you kids to. In fact, I'd like you to answer that just quickly. I know we have 1 minute. Um, Tell me how. What helps you know the right thing to do in life?
Um, for me, it's just I can feel it. When something
Is
is
your soul
wrong, I
okay?
can just feel it,
Yes, good, good. Then
or something's
trust
off.
your instincts. Don't let leaders. I'm not saying anybody. Just sometimes leaders they
Just you need
the
to think for yourself.
propaganda.
You can't just go on the bandwagon. You need to think for
Yes,
yourself and
yeah, exactly.
try to
In
figure things
fact,
out.
Hitler even told the German people at one point, "I'll take responsibility for your, um, uh, not your morals, but something like that." Whichever side avoids kind of simplistic, harsh language. So, yes, there you go. Be aware of propaganda. I think both sides of the political spectrum are guilty of it, kind of, but I do still believe in free speech, free press. But yes, yes, try your best to stay on the right side of history and the right side of humanity and so on. All right, kids. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I missed you guys so much. And please reach out. Um, Andrew, since you're almost finished with that portfolio, I'll you can submit it, but then reach out to me via webmail or something, okay? For I'll probably remove an assignment coming up for you since you did that one. Okay.
I think that's it.
All right.
Goodbye.
All right. Bye, guys. Take care. Bye.